Victoria Caputo, the daughter of Theresa Caputo, who stars in the show Long Island Medium, is currently in a legal mess with her husband, Michael Mastrandrea. The police suddenly arrested Michael on the street, took him to the police station, and then brought him to court. Since the event, Theresa and Victoria have been going to court often and talking to their lawyer. The lawyer tells them not to worry, Michael will be out on bond soon. Victoria Caputo had always been in the public glare. She was used to cameras, fans, and the occasional sensational headline because she was the daughter of Theresa Caputo, the famed Long Island medium. But nothing could have prepared her for the shock that came on a normal summer afternoon. The sidewalks sparkled in the sun on this bright day. Victoria's phone rang with a call from a neighbor just as she was finishing her chores. The person on the other end was panicking. "Victoria, it's Michael. The police, they just snatched him." Her heart sank. "What do you mean, they took him?" "They stopped him in the street, put him in handcuffs, and drove away." I don't know what's going on." Victoria's hands were shaking so severely when she got to the police station that she could hardly open the glass door. She was treated with short responses and icy professionalism within. Michael Mastrandrea, her spouse of 3 years, had been arrested on what they called pending charges. They wouldn't say more. As soon as she got home, she called her mom. Theresa's voice sounded calm, but you could tell she was worried. "I'm on my way. Don't talk to anyone until I get there." Theresa showed there by evening with a folder in hand. The front of the folder had the name of their family lawyer, Robert Mancini, written in big letters. She told Victoria, "We're going to take care of this, honey. But keep in mind that the truth might get warped when you're in the public glare. Keep your chin up." The next morning, Theresa and Victoria were in Robert's office, which was sleek and full of law books and framed certificates. Robert leaned forward and spoke in a calm, low voice. "I've looked at the first report. Michael won't be able to stay here for long. It's an arrest for a reason. We'll get him out on bond in no time." The days that followed were still a whirlwind of trips to the courts, heated murmurs in the hallways, and the incessant clicking of cameras from those who were interested. Reporters stood outside, shouting questions that Victoria didn't answer. She sat next to her mother in the courtroom, feeling the weight of every look. Michael showed up in court for a short time wearing the same clothing he had on when he was detained. He looked fatigued but resolute. He looked into Victoria's eyes, and for a minute, everything else slipped away. She said the words, "I love you," with her mouth, and he nodded back. Robert spoke to the judge with calm assurance as he made his case for release. "Your Honor, my client is not likely to run away. He has a stable family, strong ties to the community, and no criminal past." The judge finally gave Michael bail after a long pause, and he set the terms for his release. Victoria let out a breath for what felt like the first time in days. Theresa held her hand under the table. When Victoria, Theresa, and Robert left the courthouse, they were met by a wall of flashing cameras. Robert talked to the press for a short time. "We have complete faith in the legal system. All of Mr. Mastrandrea's charges will be dropped." That night, Victoria and her mom reclined on the couch at home. "I can't believe this happened," she said softly. Theresa wrapped her arm around her. "Life gives us things we can't plan for, but we get through it with love, truth, and each other. And we're going to stick with it." Victoria felt a little bit better for the first time since the arrest. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she knew they would get through it together with her family and Michael shortly back home. But Theresa Caputo, the famous Long Island medium, sat in her cozy reading room on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. She was drinking herbal tea. The smell of candles filled the air, yet now she felt a strange heaviness, as if there was an energy that was different. The candlelight flickered for a time as she got ready for her next customer. Theresa's eyes narrowed. She mumbled, "Oh boy, here we go," and straightened her leopard print shirt. A woman named Natalia came in when the doorbell rang. She was in her late 30s, had jet black hair, and seemed anxious. She told Theresa that she had come to see her because she sought closure over her brother Alexei, who had died in Russia a few years earlier under mysterious circumstances. Theresa felt a strong chill run up her arms as she held Natalia's hands. Theresa said slowly, "I don't know how to tell you this, but your brother is here. He's showing me something about a table that spins, metal, and a loud bang. Natalia gasped and put her hand over her lips. Oh my God. Russian roulette, she said in a low voice. Theresa nodded slowly. He says it wasn't about being careless, it was about proving something. He was around friends, or at least people he thought were friends, and he didn't think the pistol would go off. He wants you to know that it happened swiftly and that he didn't hurt. The air got thicker, and Theresa's voice changed in a way that wasn't quite her own. She talked with a heavy Russian accent. Sorry, Natalia. I was stupid. I should have left. You should stop blaming yourself for not being there. I made the choice, not you. Natalia cried as she held Theresa's hands. He thought he could never be hurt, she cried. Theresa's eyes became softer. He also showed me a silver watch. Do you still have it? Natalia nodded, shaking. Yes, I keep it in my drawer. That was the final present he gave me. Theresa grinned with warmth. Stay close. That's his way of letting you know that he's still there for you and watching over you. He advises you need to stop hiding in your pain and start living your life to the fullest. The flames on the candles suddenly got higher, and the room felt lighter. Theresa let go of Natalia's hands and took a long breath. Well, I guess he's gone now. But sweetie, I can tell you this. Your brother's spirit is full of love. He is at peace. And he wants you to be too. Natalia left with tears in her eyes, but also a grin. After years of not knowing what to do, her heart was finally lighter. And Theresa? She shook her head and said to herself, Russian roulette. I've seen a lot of things in my line of work, but that one will stick with me for a while. But it was a cold Sunday afternoon in Hicksville, and Theresa Caputo's phone rang immediately after she had finished her morning coffee. A voicemail from a young woman named Emily said she was scared. She said that her family had been in a terrible place emotionally ever since her brother Michael died abruptly in a vehicle accident 2 years ago. The anguish was so bad that even family get-togethers were quiet and somber. They wanted answers to move forward. When Theresa got to their small house, she could feel the dense, heavy spirit of grief in the air right once. Emily opened the door and let her in. Her eyes were red from crying, and her parents were sitting calmly in the living room. Theresa's eyes got bigger, and her hand went to her chest before anyone could even say what was wrong. Okay, I don't know how to say this, but I can already feel a young male energy here. It's very quick, like it's gone in an instant. Does that make sense? Emily gasped and said yes. Her mother's hands rushed to her mouth, and tears filled her eyes. Yes, that's Michael, Emily said in a low voice. Theresa shut her eyes. He shows me the night it happened. There was rain on the windshield, and music playing. Then he says, Tell them I'm okay, I'm not in pain. He finally spoke for the first time, and tears flooded his eyes. We never knew, we thought he was in pain. Theresa leaned forward softly. No, honey, he's very clear, he crossed over right away. He's showing me a gold bracelet. Who has that? Emily hurried to her room and came back with a thin gold chain bracelet. I wear this every day. It was in his car when it was towed, and I didn't want to let it go. Theresa smiled gently. He says, Good. You keep that. It's my way of holding your hand every day. Then, Michael's spirit started to talk about things that Theresa couldn't have known, like how Emily still played his favorite video game late at night, how their mother still made spaghetti on Sundays but left his chair empty, and how their father sometimes sat in the driveway alone in the car just to feel him there. The family went from crying to little, shaky smiles when Theresa spoke. He says you need to stop holding your breath and start living again. He's not gone. He's with you every day. By the time the reading was over, the room felt a little less heavy. I feel like I can finally breathe, Emily said as she held Theresa firmly. Theresa looked back as she exited the house and saw the family hugging each other, their tears now tinged with relief. Michael had given them what they had been looking for all along, serenity. And that was why Theresa did what she did. But there was a soft buzz of chatter in the busy room at a Long Island hotel. People had come to see Theresa Caputo, the well-known Long Island medium, in the hopes of hearing from their loved ones who had passed away. Mark, a tall, broad-shouldered man in his 40s with his arms crossed and a countenance like stone, was one of them. His sister made him go, therefore he wasn't there by choice. Mark murmured to her, "I don't believe any of this. It's all a trick." But as the night went on, Theresa's lively presence filled the room. She walked around the room in her characteristic high heels, flinging her platinum blonde hair back, and started saying things that made people gasp. Mark still wasn't impressed, though, until Theresa suddenly stopped speaking and turned to look at him. "You, sir, the man in the blue shirt," she continued, pointing at him. "Your mom has been yelling at me the whole time to talk to you." Mark stopped moving. He answered, "My mother has been dead for 15 years. Theresa grinned like she knew something. "She says you still have her old recipe box in the kitchen, even though you act like you don't care about her things." His jaw got stiff. That was true. His mother's old wooden recipe box was buried in the back of his cabinet. He had never told anyone he still had it. Theresa went on, her voice getting softer. "She says you made her famous chicken pot pie last winter, but you burned it because you didn't follow her instructions." Some people laughed, but Mark's face became white. That happened on a snowy night when he was really missing her. Theresa moved closer. "She wants you to stop feeling bad about not being there the night she died. She claims she knows you tried to be there on time and that she saw you carrying her picture in the car." Tears filled Mark's eyes. At that moment, the wall of doubt he had built up over the years fell apart. Theresa touched his arm softly. "She says one more thing. Tell my son I love him more than the moon loves the night sky." Mark took a deep breath. Those were the exact words his mother used to say to him every night before bed. There was no sound in the room. His sister's eyes were even shining with emotion. Mark finally nodded and said, "Thank you." Theresa grinned and took a step back. "Don't thank me. Thank your mom. She never really went away." And for the first time in 15 years, Mark went away with the thought that love might be able to traverse any distance, even the one between life and death. But on a cool autumn afternoon in Hicksville, New York, Theresa Caputo got an urgent email from a young mother called Emily. Emily's statement was simple but very sad. "Since his sister Lily died in a car accident last year, my son Jack hasn't been the same. He hardly talks, has nightmares, and sometimes says he can hear her calling his name. We don't know if it's grief or something else. Please help him." Theresa had read a lot of things over the years, but this one really touched her. A child who was grieving was different. It was a delicate situation. She said she would meet the family that weekend. Theresa's initial impression of Emily's small house was how quiet it was. Jack, who was just 8 years old, was cuddled up on the couch with a little, worn-out teddy bear. When she came in, he didn't glance up. Theresa sat down next to him and spoke in her warm, sing-song Long Island accent. "Hey, friend. I'm Theresa. I hear you have a sister named Lily, who is special." Jack's eyes snapped up and his voice shook when he heard her name. "She is gone." Theresa softly put her hand on top of his. "Honey, I talk to folks who have died. And sometimes they say things to me to let me know they're still here. Is it acceptable if I try to see if Lily wants to say hi?" Jack thought for a moment, then nodded very slightly. Theresa felt a rush of energy right away, light, playful, and almost like a child. She shut her eyes. "She's showing me a swing set in a park," Theresa said softly. "And a balloon that is red. She believes you let it go on purpose, so it may find her in heaven." Jack's eyes got bigger. "I did that on my birthday." Emily gasped quietly from the armchair and put her hand over her mouth. Theresa smiled softly. "She also says she loves how you still sleep with Mr. Floppy," she said, looking at the teddy bear. "She used to tuck him in next to you, every night." Jack held the bear tighter. "She used to? She told me that Mr. Floppy keeps bad dreams away." Theresa's voice got softer. "She wants you to know that she still does it. She says, 'Let him know I'm still here at night. I still chase away the monsters.'" Jack's eyes filled with tears, but for the first time in months, he smiled a little. Can I tell her I miss her?" he asked. Theresa nodded her head. "Buddy, close your eyes. Say it with your heart." She will hear you. Teresa's own eyes sparkled after a period of stillness. She heard you. And she responds, I miss you more, but I'm always with you. That's me kissing you every time you feel the wind on your cheek. Emily cried because she was both sad and happy at the same time. Jack said to his mother, She's still here, Mom, as he leaned against her. The home didn't feel as heavy anymore when Theresa left that afternoon. Jack's cheeks were red again. He slept well that night for the first time in a year, mister. The soft fall wind brushed on Floppy's face as he held him under his arm. And someplace, out of sight, Lily's laughter reverberated, keeping her promise. But the cameras started rolling again in Hicksville, and Theresa Caputo, wearing her famous leopard print top and hair that was well up in the air, said, Theresa walked into a busy Italian bakery at the start of the episode. She didn't only go there for cannoli, she got two, but she was drawn to a woman in the corner. Maria was drinking coffee and looking at her phone. Teresa's eyes got bigger. Theresa replied with a smile, I don't want to interrupt you, but your grandma is here, and she says you're burning the sauce. Maria's mouth dropped open. My nana always told me to stay focused in the kitchen, but she died 3 years ago. Theresa stopped a young man selling honey at a sunny farmer's market. Your dad is here, and he says you're finally living the dream. Anthony, the man, stopped in his tracks. His father had died before he could see his beef farm do well. Teresa's eyes filled with tears as she talked about how her dad's old aftershave smelled and how he laughed. Later, Anthony said it felt like a hug from heaven. When Theresa went to a community center, it was one of the most talked about times. Rebecca sat with her arms folded, determined to prove everything wrong. But then Theresa said a special childhood nickname that only Rebecca's late brother used. Pumpkin seed. Rebecca cried down and held Teresa's hands. I thought this was all fake when I walked in, but you just gave me the best gift of my life, she said. Theresa met a retired Marine called Greg, which was one of the most moving parts of the story. She talked about his best friend from the service, telling stories about their time in Afghanistan, and even the song they used to sing off-key to upset the rest of the unit. Greg, who said he hadn't cried in 20 years, couldn't help it. Of course, every episode has to have some drama with the Caputo family. Larry Jr., Teresa's son, made fun of her for being too dramatic during readings during dinner on Sunday. Dramatic. Theresa shot back. Honey, I talk to the dead when I make meatballs. What could be more dramatic than that? Even the ghosts probably laughed. The end of part 2 shocked everyone. A group reading was placed in an ancient theater on Long Island, and Theresa was invited. She stopped in the middle of her message and looked up at the balcony. There is a spirit here who says this building saved lives. It turned out that the theater had been a shelter during World War II. One person in the audience found out that their grandparents had met there for the first time. Theresa smiled and remarked, as the crowd wiped away their tears, This is why I do what I do, to remind you that love never dies, even when the credits roll. Hello, beautiful viewers. Welcome to my channel. I'm Mina, and I hope you're having a great day. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you appreciate the video.